Hi everyone, I'm Kosei Nagao from Kyushu Institute of Technology in Japan. Today, I'd like to talk about an asynchronous P system for counting thought. First of all, I'd like to talk about natural computing. Natural computing is one of the next generation computing paradigms which works using natural materials for computation. Using the natural computing, computationally hard problems can be solved in a polynomial number of steps using an exponential number of natural materials. There are some examples of natural computing. Classical models of the natural computing are cellular automaton and neural network. And recent models of the natural computing are molecular computing, also known as DNA computing, and membrane computing. Now I'd like to explain details of the membrane computing. This slide shows background and definition of the membrane computing. Membrane computing is a computational model inspired by the structures and behaviors of living cells. For example, this figure shows a diagram of a cell. As shown in the figure, some membranes such as nucleus or vacuole are contained in the cell. And many objects such as mitochondria or chloroplast are contained in each membrane. In addition, each object moves or evolves to another object in parallel in each membrane. Then, using the concept, P system has been proposed as a computational model based on the living cell. The P system consists of membranes and objects. This figure shows a P system which is obtained as an abstraction of living cell on the left. In the P system, each membrane is labeled using distinct symbols and forms nested structures. In addition, each object is denoted as an alphabet and is contained in one of the membranes. Next, I'd like to explain another important feature of P system, the evaluation rules. Each evaluation rule is defined as a rewriting rule for membranes and objects. All objects and membranes are transformed in parallel according to applicable evaluation rules. In membrane computing, several types of evaluation rules are assumed. In our research, we assume these 5 basic rules. Now, I'll explain these rules in the following slides. The first rule is an object evolution rule that makes an object evolve into another object in a step like this figure. The rule is based on a biological model of evolution in a cell. The second rule is a send-in communication rule that sends an object into the inner membrane like this figure. The rule is based on a biological model of cell penetration. The third rule, send-out communication rule, is also defined similarly like this. The fourth rule is a dissolution rule that dissolves a membrane like this. The rule is based on a biological model of work of a cell wall degrading enzyme. The final rule is division rule that divides a membrane into 2 membranes, like this figure. The rule is based on a biological model of cell division. Next, I'd like to introduce another concept for P system, that's asynchronous P system. There is a problem on standard P system, the maximal parallelism. On the standard P system, all evolution rules are synchronously applied in maximal parallel manner, which means that all applicable evolution rules are applied for objects in parallel in each step of computation. As an example, let us consider the membrane which has 3 objects AAC and these 2 evolution rules. In maximally parallel manner, the object in the membrane evolve like this figure in one step because all applicable evaluation rules are applied in parallel. However, all objects in a living cell basically works in asynchronous manner, which means all objects independently react on rules with different speed. So we consider asynchronous parallelism for the P system. In the asynchronous P system, any number of applicable evaluation rules are applied in each step of computation. So the asynchronous P system can be executed sequentially and also can be executed in maximal parallel manner. Now, let us consider the same example for the asynchronous P system. In asynchronous parallelism, objects in the membrane can be changed into various states in one step because at least one applicable evolution rules are applied. But we have to note that the asynchronous P system must be guaranteed to output a correct solution in any asynchronous executions. Using P system, several kinds of computationally hard problems such as SAT and minimum graph coloring have been solved. In addition, some P systems for basic operations such as addition, multiplication, and sorting have been proposed. As for sorting operations, several kinds of P systems have been proposed. For example, the P system using insertion sort. This result has been proposed only in maximally parallel manner, and its input object denote unary numbers, which is hard to apply to other problems. On the other hand, the input objects of the asynchronous P system using odd-even sort represents binary numbers, which has high versatility, but there is still room for improvement on complexities. So I'd like to propose an asynchronous P system based on counting sort for inputs representing binary numbers with better complexities. Now I'd like to introduce our P system using counting sort. First of all, I'll explain counting sort algorithm briefly. Counting sort is a well-known parallel sorting algorithm. Both of the input and output are sequences of n elements. The counting sort consists of these three steps. And to make it easy to understand, I'd like to give an explanation with a specific example in the next slide. I assume this sequence S containing 4 elements is given as an input. In step 1, 4 processes are assigned for each element in S. Next, in the step 2, process I compares xi with the other elements in S and counts the number of elements that are less than xi. In the last step, process I set xi in the ki plus 1's position in S prime. As you can see, each step of this algorithm is executed independently, so each process does not have to synchronize with the other processes. Now I'd like to explain the outline of our proposed P system. The input and output are sets of objects representing n binary numbers of m bits, and the proposed P system has 2 membranes. Like this figure, the outer membrane labeled 0 contains the inner membrane labeled 1. The computation of the proposed P system consists of these 5 steps. In the following slides, I'll give the details of these steps. As an example, let us assume that a set of objects representing these 4 binary numbers of 4 bits is given as an input. In the step 1, all objects are moved from the outer membrane into the inner membrane. The evolution rules of this step are defined like this. In the step 2, The inner membrane containing all input objects are divided n-1 times. At this time, one of the binary numbers is assigned to each divided membrane without duplication. In this example, we assume that input is a set of 4 binary numbers. Then the inner membrane is divided 3 times. And the assigned number in each divided membrane are shown in red in this figure. This step is executed using these evolution rules. In the step 3, the assigned binary number is compared with the other n-1 binary numbers, and the number of binary numbers that are less than the assigned number is counted in each inner membrane. For example, in the leftmost inner membrane, the assigned number x1 is compared with the other 3 binary numbers. There are 2 binary numbers that are less than x1, so 2 is set to k1 as a result of comparisons. The same computation are executed in the other inner membranes. In addition, the objects representing the binary numbers excluding the assigned binary number are removed in each inner membrane. This step consists of these evolution rules. In the step 4, an address of each assigned binary number is updated to ki plus 1, and updated objects are moved to the outer membrane. For example, in the leftmost inner membrane, the binary number that is less than x1 is 2, and the address of x1 is updated to 3. The same computations are executed in the other inner membranes. Also, all updated objects are moved to the outer membrane by send-out communication rule in one of the inner membranes, and by dissolution rule in the other inner membrane. The computation of this step is executed by these evolution rules. In the last step, all output objects are sent out from the outer membrane, and the objects and the structure of the membranes are initialized. Like this example, we can obtain the sorted binary numbers as output. This step consists of these evolution rules. Now I'll show the complexity of the proposed P system. We can obtain this theorem for the proposed P system. The asynchronous P system, Pi sort, which sorts n binary numbers of n bits using counting sort, works in order mn parallel steps or order mn squared sequential steps by using order mn squared types of objects and evolution rules of size order mn squared. Also, this table shows the comparisons between the proposed P system and the existing P system that uses the same type of input with the proposed P system. As you can see, the number of parallel steps of the proposed P system is better than the existing P system. Finally, I'd like to conclude my presentation. We propose the asynchronous P system for sorting binary numbers using counting sort. The number of parallel steps is better than the existing P system. As our future research, we are considering the reduction in the number of objects and evolution rules using in the proposed P system. We are also considering the asynchronous P system for other sorting algorithms. That's all. Thank you for listening.